So, whenever you start designing something, start building, designing, developing, start working on something, don't feel ashamed that you get it wrong the first 8, 10, 20, 30 times. It doesn't matter. You'll get things wrong. Pizza box pile, another garbage pile. Don't worry about it. Anyway, so I was making this little storage box thing, yeah? Simple little box, 3D printed, got a couple of holes for mounting in the bottom, got a couple of like little divots for latching in the side. Yeah. I got this lid too, that's supposed to sit on it. There's a hole in the top, holes over there for mounting a thing, hole there for having a cable go through, and it's got a notch in the side for cables to go through from that little thing, which is off-centering. In fact, it's not even in the right place anymore. Thank God. Need to redo that too. Fantastic. So, printed this off, tried it on. It snaps perfectly onto this thing, which is so good. I was so fucking happy. Then, I remember, oh yeah, I should check the hole spacing and the positioning for the little switch box that's supposed to go on there so that I can actually turn the RC car on and off, because it's supposed to go on an RC car. That's when I realized, in order to be able to flip a switch, you need to be able to get the switch lever through. And I don't know if you realize this, but between those two screws, that's where the switch lever goes. There ain't nothing there. There's no hole there. There's no way for that lever to get through. Great. So I thought to myself, oh, that's wonderful. That's, well, that's shit, I thought to myself. Great, I have to reprint it. And then I had another idea. Then I had another thought. What if I just grab the box and test fit the lid with the switch box tightly pressed against the edge of the lid, which, by the way, seems to interface, like it seems to sink onto the box. It goes onto the outside of the box. It hugs it. With that installed, try to close the box. I was like, oh, that's not gonna fucking work. Because the press against the edge of the lid, I kind of wanted that because it looks nice and it feels nice, and then I was like, oh wait, hang on. Yeah. You try to get that to line up right. You're never gonna get that over there with that installed. And it's a shame. It's a real shame. If you're wondering why I'm installing a new storage box on my RC car, it's because the electronics are getting too big to fit in the original. The original RC car box it's got enough space for an ESC, and it's got enough space for an ESC, and it's got enough space for a receiver, but it ain't got enough space for an igniter. And this is now a gas car. It now runs on gas. It used to run on nitromethane, meaning it only needed a receiver, but now it runs on nitro, so it does not just need a receiver anymore, it also needs an igniter. But now it runs on gasoline, so it doesn't just need a receiver, it also needs a spark igniter. And I used to have in the old box, as you saw the big hole there, in the lid, the big hole in the old lid, I used to have a heat-sinked PCB in here that basically did a bit of, where the fuck's mine? Oh, okay, elsewhere. I used to have a heatsink PCB in there that basically stepped down the 8-something volts of the battery of the like control act. When I flipped the heavy gauge switch, it flipped that over to it like turned that down to 1 point something volts, like 1.3 volts at like a 6 amp current, so it could go through the glow plug and actually like glow that, so you could start it. It was mounted onto the thing because I knew I wanted to have it on the system, so I stopped having that stupid stick that I had to connect because that's fucking dumb. Anybody who thought that was a good idea needs to burn in hell. Nice. I'm a bit sick. Anyway, so I decided to build an onboard system for that, and I mean, it worked. But I don't like how glow fuel works. It's just, it's finicky, it's sensitive to temperature, it barely functions half the time when it is at temperature. Unless you have your engine tuned to work at running temperature, it will just die the moment it gets up to running temperature. And if you have it tuned to running at the running temperature, it will no longer start easily. Basically, nitro fuel is a nightmare at this scale. Nitro fuel is the easiest fuel to ignite at this scale because it's so highly flammable. The only problem is it's a true nightmare to keep running because of because it's an alcohol fuel, and alcohol fuels don't like to burn. They are very resistant to igniting. They are extremely resistant. They should only be really ignited due to compression and spark. Compression and spark is what should be what sets these off. You anger the shit out of it with high compression, and then you spark that shit, and it just goes bang. That's how top fuel cars work. That's how it should be done. But these little pieces of shit, they glow that shit. They glow run that bastard, that shitty ass setup. And then on top of that, they're low compression. They're like 9.5 at most. So I'm like, no, I'm done with that. So I modify the car a lot. But anyway, Bubby's first engineering challenge. Does this even close? Does this even close? As a matter of fact, yes. It closes fairly well too. It was closing just perfectly fine a moment ago. Oh, I got it closed. Now it won't close for some reason. Did I get this oriented or? Oh! I didn't close it. Oh, if I grab it in the center, it's a lot easier to open than if I grab it on the sides. Okay, that's good to note. Like, it doesn't fall off on its own. Okay, weird. It requires a bit of force to get it off. Anyway, that fits perfect. It looks great, actually. The result of this is actually really good. I'm very happy with the fit and interference of this lid on this box. I am actually really happy with that. It worked out perfectly from my perspective. Look at that. The overhang is actually looking pretty nice too. It's not perfectly centered, but I don't mind. I don't care. I got tired of trying to center that. I spent a good hour trying to center that overhang. It did not work out in my favor, and it just ended up being weird. Oh, if you just wiggle it, it works better. It's even easier to remove. Nice. But anyway, that works out. It looks great. That's a shame, because, again, no hole for the fucking actual lever, and it's in the wrong spot. You wouldn't be able to close the lid with this. That's great. All the other things are correctly located. I moved this fucking thing far enough away that the lid of the box isn't anywhere near that edge. Say there, the edge of the box isn't anywhere near those. And that was in the right corner too. I was so worried that I put that in the wrong corner, but it's in the right corner. The only problem is I put the fucking switch in the wrong goddamn place. Same with the notch that's supposed to have cables come out here. And then on top of that, I didn't fucking put a hole for the switch lever. What the fuck? The one thing I was paranoid about getting spacing right, and it didn't work out. And then everything else, yes, I did push that over with my finger. Turns out you just push the little notchy things and they just come open. All I have to do is it pops open. None of that. Where the fuck did the lid go? I was buying the guitar. Oh, come on. No, I can't play yet. Anyway. So yeah, I gotta say, for a first attempt, for a first revision, I will say that this was pretty good. The thing I was the most worried about, which was actually the placement of these little janky things, to see if that would actually close the stupid box or not. It was what I was most worried about, but it does close the box, it does hold it closed. I am not as worried about that as I was. For a first revision, this works. This is good. I have already deepened this box because it turns out this thing was too thin. It needs to be about that tall. Yeah, I didn't think about that. So I've made it about 15 millimeters deeper now. So it should be about that deep now. Should be plenty of space. With the type of lid, it should be plenty of space for all of the activities I wish. Now, if I made this box any bigger, I might actually be able to like store the battery and stuff in there too. But unfortunately, that's not an option because it wouldn't physically fit in the space I'm allotted on the frame. If I cut out the existing box, I can just about make this footprint fit. 40 by 125, I can just about make fit, but it's unfortunately also about all I can make fit anymore, and it just doesn't really fit on the frame at all. So, sadly, but I can raise it, no problem. Quite a bit. Now, of course, it's going to interfere with the movement of the brake, with the movement of the servo to cause a braking effect. But I can very easily adjust that. I can just move that to a different. I can just flip the servo orientation, which means that the throttle servo will be. Which means that the throttle will be on the opposite side, and the brake, which is the lever that needs to be the longest, that needs to be the in a very specific place. It can be on the opposite side, so it doesn't get into, so it doesn't foul on anything. But I think it might be able to get away with it as it is, but we'll see. That RC car might be coming as a content in the future. I don't know. I made a custom head for it and everything. That's right. Again, like I got sick and tired of glow fuel never starting and never working out as intended. And don't give me your elitist bullcrap of the glow fuel has always worked fine for me. I've been doing this for 30 years. Look, if you consider fine spending 30 minutes warming up an engine before you can even rev it, without it just dying, or choking out, or flooding, yeah, that's not a win, my guy. That's not a win. That is just you making a compromise that, quite frankly, is disgustingly bad. I mean, sure, you might think it's a great time spending 30 minutes away from everything else just to warm up the engine so you can actually start driving it around, and then having to spend the better part of like 4 hours each season with just prep work to keep the thing from going fucking AWOL, and then using pre-run and post-run oil and all that sort of crap to keep one of these things actually running for any amount of time. Which, yes, that's all a thing. All of that's a thing for nitro RCs. That's the sort of shit they don't tell you about. Nobody tells you about that. But it's important shit, because if you don't do all this shit, you'll wreck the engine. Why? Because alcohol absorbs water. That's the problem here. The alcohol fuel absorbs water over time, which will cause the engine to just turn into garbage if you don't use pre-run and post-run oils. And what are those? Well, they're basically the oils that are dissolved in the fuel, except, pure. Oh, and if you do use too much, it won't ignite. It won't fire. If you use too much of it, like it won't all fire, and you'll have to take the glow plug out and like just fucking run that engine for a while. Just like pull that stupid string for like a good solid minute, just back and forth, in order to get the oil to shoot out, so you don't have it flooding the chamber all the time and cooling the glow plug down too much. Or hydrolocking the engine, of course, because you're dealing with so small volumes. Really, it's kind of a pain in the ass. It's so much nicer to use gasoline with a 5% oil mix and just calling it good. And it just having this same power output. It's just... I mean, yeah, sure, I had to put a magnet in the flywheel. I had to put a Hall effect sensor that's mounted to the frame, and that just picks up the magnet. I had to do that, sure. But it runs. And its throttle response is fucking great. Anyway, I think I'm gonna call it here. See ya.